joins us this morning. We'll be looking ahead in this year. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, same to you too. We have here heard, and perhaps, who knows, there may be more messages from politicians, messages of goodwill, wishing Nigerians well this year, 2014. But there are lots of comments too coming through from Twitter. They tell themselves, listen, I'm not sure I can actually take what politicians tell me seriously, because some of them say, look, they've had several promises which were never met, and then these promises keep coming thick and fast, but they don't seem to be putting their money where their mouth is. But then you have the president who says, look, before the middle of this year, he believes that we will have steady power supply. Some say it meant 18 hours of power supply. Shouldn't we be optimistic?
Well, I think that each case has to be viewed in the proper context. And the president's comment about energy makes a lot of sense. So his optimism is based on the investments and the policies that have been put in place in 2013 and before. So as far as energy is concerned, I believe the president, I agree with him that we should be optimistic. We're already seeing a difference in supply. It used to be less than 10 hours. People say now we have about 10 hours in many places of the country. So we have reason to be optimistic. The privatization policy has paid off in other areas in the past, such as telecommunications. So we're optimistic that it will pay off, as the president said.
You know, but for what we also see realistically, well, yes, there are lots of efforts being put in place. They say they put a lot of investments. Yes, the private owners have come in, but you also have people who have looked consistently saying, look, from what I see, even though some areas say they've got 10, others, look, this is intermittent, some regions have never gotten that for years. So based on that, some of them are a bit wary of taking those comments hook, line, and sinker. Is that rightly or wrong?
There's reason to be wary. They're always wary of politicians, but that's why I said specific issues. In the case of energy,
okay.
Privatization, it will take time. There's a transitional period before we begin to see the full effect, but we are beginning to see some improvement, and hopefully we will see more improvement. That's not an issue that we should keep harping on now. Let's give it time and see.
Especially if several timelines and deadlines have elapsed without breasting the tape.
Look, we know where we were coming from in terms of electricity.
And we know how much we've spent in investments.
We know mistakes that have been made in the past. And from what we have seen, this new policy looks promising. That's why I said, give it time. Since we've seen some improvement, we expect to see more improvement, and with time we should.
What about governance? This is also part of governance, but mainstream governance in terms of the way our leaders across board, because we've got the federal, states, even the local governments. How would you advise Nigerians to be optimistic about leadership this year, and why?
I don't think it's such a question of optimism or pessimism. I think what we should talk about really is Nigerians should be more committed and should be more critical and should be more watchful of government. The ongoing discussions, for instance, the question of the national confab has a lot to do with improving governance in the country.
How?
Well, there's too much centralization in the country now, too much power in the center, not enough in the states, and trickling down to the community leadership, that is local governments. And until we have that, there will be no improvement in services in the country.
This confab can change that?
Yes, because a couple of things that the confab is looking at, the critical things. One is devolution of powers. In other words, the center cannot be so powerful Look at countries where they've had development. We keep saying, people say they don't want to talk about the United States, it's not the United States, but that's the ideal that we are all trying to meet. So we must look at it. Even though it's a presidential system, it's true federalism means that the states have control over, for instance, they have security, the police. They have a lot of control over their economy. The other thing that the confab is looking at is generation of income. In other words, more money should go to states that are producing the resources.
Are these spelled out, or this is what they may be looking at?
No. These are the issues why people have been calling for national confab. We need to discuss sovereign.
This is what they hope to discuss.
Oh, yeah, this is what they're going to discuss.
Oh, okay.
What comes out of it is the issue. In other words, until, this is what I believe, that until we have a system whereby the power is shared by the states themselves. Mm-hmm. For instance, you notice that states in the US sometimes go bankrupt. Michigan, the great state of Michigan, just went bankrupt last year because it wasn't doing enough.
Yeah, but Dr. Pearse,
so if you're not doing enough as a state, you go bankrupt.
Yeah, but our laws recognize a federal system.
Well, we're changing it. That's why we're having the discussion.
Are we practicing it? What our law stipulates?
Well, yes. You see, your previous guest said something about a military constitution. That's the problem. So that's what we're trying to address now. And when we change some of these things, we will have better governance.